Compassionate. With tremendous honor, I want to express my gratitude to the Center of Strategic Studies in Najaf, to Dr. Hussein Hatem, the representative of this, and Dr. Jebel, and all the representatives, and to my colleagues at Islam University. It's an honor for me. I'm very happy I am here. Alhamdulillah. Let's start, please. In each class, there are some principles. In order to have a productive class, at least one of these three elements should be there. Knowledge, وقرب بيزيد العلم. A good class increases you in knowledge. So a class which there is no knowledge in it, it is a waste of time. So, وقرب بيزيد العلم. A class should increase you in knowledge. إذا بدي العلم معكم. This is the first element. The second element in any class is perception. Perception means understanding. So, if you want to be, in order to have a productive class, first is knowledge, then give you some understanding. The third element is behavior. Very briefly, صف الذهن، صف اللي فيه، صف المعلم يستانس من عنده، الطلاب يستانسون من عنده، بثلاث خصائص. الأولى يزود العلم معك. إذا ماكو علم بالصف نضيع الوقت معك. ثاني خصيصة بالصف it is perception. يخليك تفهم الأشياء حولك. يعني الفهم جدا مهم بالصف. الصف اللي الطالب ما يفهم شو القصة، طالب والمعلم ولا يعيد وقته. The third one is behavior. سلوك. ممكن الصف لا يزود العلم معك، لكن يضيف أخلاق. يضيف أخلاق. So these are the general features of a class, a good class. At least one of them should be there. حتى لا واحد يكون موجود بالصف. هذا الصف. إذا ما موجود أي واحد منهم، the class is a collapse. يعني مضيعين وقت معكم. So these are the general features of a good class. How do we learn? How do we learn? شو نتعلم? We learn 1% by always doing taste. بالذات كم على 1%. We learn 2% by touching. We learn 4% by smelling. We learn by listening 10%. But mainly we learn by our eyes. So you should watch carefully to learn something. شو نحن تعلمنا الأشياء؟ 1% نستعمل الذاكرة معنا. 2% اللامسة. 4% نشم الأشياء، 10% نسمع الأشياء، لكن نشوف ندقها، عرف؟ 83% نتعلم. Now, how do we learn something? How to remember something? أهلا وسهلا مرحبا. أهلا وسهلا مرحبا. We learn 10% by reading. Only 10% by reading. We learn 20% by listening carefully. You listen to your teacher in class, and 20% if you listen, you will learn something. We learn 30% and remember. 30% if we watch carefully, we remember something. And if we watch and listen, we remember 50%. But if we watch and listen and repeat, we learn 70%, but we learn 90% by doing. When you read, we have read many books in our life, but most of them we forgot them. We have seen many things, but most of them we have forgotten them. We learn swimming by swimming. We learn driving by driving. We learn language by speaking and using the language. It is impossible to learn language without the application of it. Let me give another example. For example, الأستاذ عقيل، الأستاذ غزال، ما شاء الله. نفرض أستاذ غزال، نفرض مع الأستاذ غزال، ابني تو متزوج ما يعرف أي شيء. نفرض أستاذ غزال، نفرض أستاذ غزال، في غزال الحلو ما شاء الله. يسعى نورهم بين أيديهم في سيمها مثل السجود. ما يعرف يطبخ عيش، حتى بيض ما يعرف. نفرض نجم، نفرض كله just imagine. راح بيتهم. Just imagine he's a girl and he just got married and he even cannot cook an egg. He cannot cook it. Just imagine. Her husband, the girl, imagine, she told him, would you please cook for us dolma? أنا بيض ما عرفت مطولما. تروح الإنترنت، صار غزال يفتح الإنترنت حتى شلون طبخ الدولما. بس يرجع كل الناس 10% بقلبهم معه 90% طاقة. يخابر أمها، يعني تخابر البنت أمها، يقول هذا زوجي قال لي تعال طبخي دولما وأنا كنت ما أعرف أطبخ، شنو أسوي؟ أمها تقول له إيش تسوي؟ هيك تسوي هيك تسوي. عرفت يا ماما؟ تقطع التليفون، اشتري 80% طار، 20% بقلبهم معه. قال تعالي البيت، تعالي شو تطبخي دولما. تباوع شلون تطبخ دولما بالدقة 30% فقط. ركب ما طبخت الدولما تعلم تطبخ الدولما. So please, if you want to learn a language, it is compulsory to use it. I repeat, reading is good, but it's not. You will forget many things. 90% you will say goodbye to it, and 10% will be in your memory. So please, if you want to learn any language, use it. You might spend hours and hours reading. Good, but it is just, you will lose anything. Now, there are different methods for teaching. Presentation, demonstration, discussion, tutorial. Presentation, I very briefly, I will define it, very briefly. Presentation, the teacher comes in the class and sits here and he will speak or she will speak in the class. I repeat, very briefly I'm going to mention that because there's a long way to go and I don't want, and the weather is hot, I don't want to keep you waiting here. Then I know Hamilton Amiriam, she's a highly qualified person and she will present something fantastic. So myself, I'm curious in this entire lecture. Okay, I'm very curious. Then we have discussion. Teacher will do something in the class with the students together. Then we have practice, relevant practice. The teacher might bring something and the students might practice in the class. We have tutorial. Tutorial normally we have small classes, small students, small number of students, not all students. The number is limited, for example, maybe maximum 5 or 7. But normally it is private teaching. We have this one is very productive these days, the cooperative one. So, in your class, you might divide the students into different groups. Don't forget to mix high-level students, average students, and poor students in one group. Avoid separating the students. One group all very good, one group all average, one group all weak or poor students. Avoid it. And try to establish friendship atmosphere in the class. Please try to create a very friendly atmosphere in the class. Otherwise, cooperative teaching will not be very productive. So, حتى توفق بالعمل مالك. أهم شيء الصف مالك طلاب استقامة. مو يعني رقابة بيناتهم وحد يدمر الثاني. يصير اصدقاء واحد يساعد الثاني. حتى يتوفقون بالعمل مالهم. Then we have gaming with obvious. You might use games in the class, and I think it's quite clear. Then we have simulation. You might create an atmosphere in the class. You might imagine that, for example, he is, for example, in a foreign country. So then we have simulation. In simulation, you create an atmosphere in the class very much similar to the real atmosphere. For them, Ustad Ahmed, احمد داهر نازل في مطار هيثرو بلندن، شو راح يصير بي؟ يعني اول قلت له احمد تفضل هي، تفضل استاذ احمد تفضل هي لحظه واحده. تفضل، شكرا جزيلا استاذ احمد. احمد من طلاب الممتازين، اعطيني اتذكر غزال ما شاء الله. تفضل تفضل. تفضل. So imagine, just imagine, here is Heathrow Airport. It is, you are in London, and I don't know from Iraq what's the time, but in Iran the flight is arrived around 10:30 in the morning. In London time, I'm speaking, not in Iranian time. So the first time the corridor itself will guide you to the immigration office, the immigration part. They will ask you what the purpose is. يعني أول ما تنزل من الطائرة أكو ممر بياخذك قسمة المهاجرة يعني زي راح يسأل لك what's the purpose of this study? Well, what's the purpose of traveling to the UK? ليش تجي لبريطانيا؟ Why you are traveling to the UK, gentlemen? Imagine you want to study at Manchester University.
So I'm a candidate for
Manchester University. Fine. That's very good.
So I want to attend some courses.
لا تجاوبون كثير بالمطار. جاوبوا قصير. ليش ما تجاوبون أكثر إذا كنتم أكثر؟
More specific.
That's very good. Very briefly. تجاوب أنا جاي أدرس. Okay. ما يصير document يدون عندكم اثنين أشياء، القبول من الجامعة ويدون الجواز مالكم الفيزا مالكم صحيحة مو مزورة. So they will ask for a document. بس نفرض نعطيك هذا نفرض just imagine this is the documents. Okay. Thank you. شكرا. They will check in the system to see that the document is valid. راح يشوفون الجواب. Thank you very much. شكرا جزيلا. شكرا. This is simulation. A teacher creates an atmosphere in the class which is very natural to the real atmosphere. Very natural to the real atmosphere. المعلم يخلق فرشي بالصف كأنما فرشي موجود وهو يعيش في غرفة فقط. So this simulation. Then we have discovery. Well, discovery we can have it in our method in humanities, but maybe it is more valid in science and medicine. Then we have problem-solving method. Problem-solving method. The teacher might ask a question from the students. الدكتور what are you going to do if you just imagine a bank call you now and said you have $1 million, for example. What are you going to do with $1 million?
Well, something that I would not do is give it to the poor.
Oh, come on, be serious, okay? But very good, honestly, very good. Just very good. يعني قال يعطي الفقراء. Just imagine. So a teacher might ask a question. ويا من استاذ جبل، نفرض انت بنيه، نفرض استاذ جبل انت بنيه. الدكتور ابو زيد بنيه.
لا دكتور لا.
دكتور ابو زيد راح يجيب لك خطابه اليوم. What are you going to do? صار الماما تخابرك. Just imagine. ما جاش طلاب imagine. تخيلوا فقط تخيلوا.
فرض المحال ليس محال.
اسم ابو زيد شنو كبنيه شنو اسمه؟ نفرض شنو اسمه في الكبنيه يقول اسم اي اسم نفرض شنو غزال اوكي غزال لا بنتي غزال اليوم راح تجيك خطابه. So imagine they ask you such a question that somebody will come to your house. ايش راح اسوي دكتور ابو زيد اذا جاني خطابه اليوم؟
والله صعب.
لا just imagine. المريض يخاف من عنده، زوجته تخاف من عنده، الاطفال يخافون من عنده، شو ما بنفهم. صف الزين اللي يربي انسان، تالي يربي طبيب، تالي يربي مهندس، تالي يربي معلم. احنا كل المجتمع معنا نربي انسان، اول نربي انسان، تالي نربي طبيب، تالي نربي مهندس. دكتور ابو زيد نفرض اكبر مهندس بالعالم، يعني يبني لك جسر منها الالمانيه في ساعتين، نفرض جسر imagine. تخيل بس شنو يهربون من عنده؟ لو طلعت عليهم لوليت منهم فرادا ولوليت منهم رعبا. يا ابو زيد شفت شيء حيقول ما بفائده. صف الزين هو اللي يخلق الانسان، تالي يخلق طبيب ومهندس والسوالف. إذا تبون توفقون بالعمل مالكم تكون تربون أول تربون الإنسان، ثاني تربون مهندس، ثالث تربون دكتور، ثالث تربون فرضاً أي شيء ثاني. الإنسان مهم، تالي الأشياء الثانية. والله ما راح توفقون بالشغل معكم. هالثوريات موجوده حتى شنو نربي المعلم، نربي نحصل صف ممتاز والطلاب مرتاحين. So if you are able to mix all of them, it's something very good concept. This is very good. عافية ما شاء الله شفتي تقدر تهفي على زوجها، خيرانك خيرانك ما شاء الله، احسنتي وجعلنا بينهم مودة ورحمة. احسنتي بنتي بس احسنتي والله ما شاء الله احسنتي والله استانست معك. very good خيرانك ما كنت تهفي عليك خيرانك. Now sorry I have to move faster and then I know she will have a fantastic lecture, so I don't want to keep her standing or to keep sitting behind the doors. I will go very quickly. There are some models for teaching. One model is called content model. In content model, they believe that it is productive that we teach with literature. For example, you teach English, musical literature, stories. It doesn't make any harm if you have some stories in your class. Some poems. سل الرماح العوالي عن معالينا واستشهد البيض هل خاب الرجا فينا. So you have stories, you have poems, and they believe that literature in English, well, it is heritage, ميراث من أجدادنا. أنا رايح متحف لوفر فرنسا، قسم من عند مصر جدا جميل. الحضارة العراقية أصلاً عديم المثال، يعني حضارة جداً huge civilization. أنا قصدي huge civilization. When you see in Louvre, in the Louvre Museum. So they believe that we should teach combining language and stories and poems. In Quran, we have many stories. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال له موسى هل أتبعك على أن تعلمني ما علمت رشدا؟ قال إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا وكيف تصبر على ما لم تحط به خبرا؟ قال اسقني إن شاء الله صبرا ولا أعصي لك أمرا. قال فإن تبعتني فلسنا شيء حتى أحدث من ذكرى. فانطلق حتى إذا ركب في السفينة خلقها قال خلقتها لتغرق أهلها لقد جئت شيئا إمرا. قال ألم قل لك إن تستطيع معي صبرا؟ قال لا تؤخذ مما نسيت ولا تؤخذنا بعسرا. فانطلق حتى إذا لقي غلاما قتله قال لقد أتى نفسا زكية بغير نفس لقد جئت شيئا نكرا. So this is a story about Moses and Khidr and something like this. We have stories of Yusuf. قال يا أبتاه إني رأيت 11 كوكبا الشمس والقمر لي ساجدين. They said if you mix literature in teaching, it will be more productive. Well, it is civilization, it is heritage, it is something. This is one model in teaching. The second model is objective model. Life is changing. My generation is different from my son's generation. Definitely my son's generation will differ from their son's generation. Life is changing. So it is wrong to try in your classes, try to impose your idea on your students. Let them think. Let them encourage them to think. And look at the social changes. Many years ago, when I was in your age, we used to put some coins and the phone in the street and just call somebody. And we have a phone at home. There is no cell phone like this at all. Now, in my new generation, this is a pretty simple thing. And you can, for example, call somebody in the United States of America and speak with him in face-to-face. In my time, you cannot see such a thing. Yeah, this was very hard. Maybe in my grandson's generation, we might have something else. So, in objective model, they believe in social changes. We train our kids based on social changes. And the books should be renewed every proper time. Not based on some personal views, based on social changes. Life is moving. We should move with it in your classes. Then, we have some values in some communities. In my country, Iraq, living in Iraq, there are some values. Religion is a value, for example. Politics, maybe I'm not saying it's good or bad. I don't know this argument, it is good or bad. For example, respecting is a value. Respecting, for example, I have to respect any person, especially those who are older than me. They believe in this idea that English classes, I have English classes. I'm dealing with English classes. I'm not dealing with physics or chemistry or algebra or geometry. I don't ignore those classes. I'm just about English. احنا الموديل او هذا النموذج يقول الجامعه بها اهداف وبها اشياء ذو قيمه. كل نعرف الاشياء ذو قيمه شنو؟ ونربي اطفالنا طلابنا على اشياء ذو قيمه للمجتمع. اي شيء محترم نكون نهتم به. هم ندرس اللغه الانجليزيه، انا ما يخصني كيمياء او الفيزياء او فرض الرياضيات. يخصني اللغه الانجليزيه. استاذ الدكتور عقيل يدرس لغه انجليزيه. هات نظريا يعتقدون هذا اللي يعتقدون فقط يدرس اللغه ويدرس الاشياء ذو قيمه بالمجتمع. طلاب احنا لازم نحترم الاقرب العلمي. اذا واحد خالفنا نحترمه. ادعوا الى سبيلك بالحكمه ولا الحسنه. ادعوا الى سبيل ربك بالحكمه والنوع والحكمه الحسنه. لا ولا تجادلوا ولو عندنا الايه مثلا وكان الانسان يقول ان جدلا. لا تجادل الناس، احترموا الناس. ان الله يامر بالعدل والاحسان. اشياء ذو قيمه. ان الله يامر بالعدل والاحسان. طلاب اذا معلمين لغه انجليزيه، طلابكم شكوا بيدلهم طلاب احنا نكون نصير عادلين بحياتنا. نحترم زوجنا، نحترم اطفالنا، نحترم جيراننا. عندي السؤال، ليش هاي ما قاعدين فرضا نفرض استاذ راهب يدرس فيزياء. والاخ كلمه اسمه كلمه شنو كان ياخذ؟
استاذ
محمد. استاذ محمد يدرس فرضا رياضيات. واستاذ جبل يعرف يدرس لغه انجليزيه. عندي السؤال من الحاضرين، ليش قال طلاب اللغه الانجليزيه اهلا وسهلا مرحبا هيك كوني يعلمون اشياء، ليش ما قلنا المعلم الفيزياء يهتم بالاشياء؟ بعد what is your idea about that? In this video, they said English teachers should respect the values. My question is that why we say, for example, physics, imagine Ustad Muhammad he's teaching algebra, for example, teaching mathematics. It is not, well, wave to him this responsibility. Just imagine, for example, Ustad Haidar is teaching, for example, geography, for example. This is not wave to him, but it is put as a responsibility in this model I'm speaking, that an English teacher should respect the values. Can you think what the reason for that? Anybody can think what the reason for that. ليش خلوا فضل المدرس اللغة الإنجليزية يكون يهتم بالأشياء؟ هذا الموديل، هذا النموذج. Can you think what the reason? تفضل.
I think because maybe math it's about absolute thing.
That's
while English and Arabic, these languages related to social.
That's very good.
And so on.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's a very good idea. Thank you very much. And thank you very much. Yes, as a gentleman said, we in mathematics dealing with, for example, 2 plus 2 is 4. For example, it's a very simple thing. But yes, you are right. But when you deal with English, you are dealing with humanities. Thank you. As the time is very limited, so I know I myself prefer in indulging more arguments. I honestly prefer to listen to you, but I know the time is limited, and I hate to keep the people behind the doors, especially Hamza Ibrahim is going to present her lecture. I'm quite curious to listen to her, so I have to move faster. She's a very qualified person, like Hamza Yohanai, like Hamza Al-Biddawi. These three very fantastic colleagues at Islam University are among the best in our country. We have some elements that you should consider. The first element is that you want to teach a book. Ask yourself this question: does this book worth teaching? نفرض تدرس هذا الكتاب، نفرض أول اسأل روحك هل الكتاب جديد يفيد الطلاب؟ يفيدهم ما يفيدهم؟ تالي الدرس. شبه الناس يدورون مناهجهم الشخصية. هذا غلط. هذا غلط. We should think about the whole community. We have, we should consider many factors in selecting the materials for teaching, even evaluation and testing. We should avoid hard books. We should avoid simple books. We should go to the average and look at this from this perspective. Now, one of the most important factors you as a teacher, please avoid books, hard books. It is not, as for example, an honor for you. You bring a book to the class, and you, as a teacher, will be confused with it. Please. ما حد راح يقول لكم اوه جاب كتاب عافيه، شنو هذا الكتاب جاب؟ هذا صار ما حد يفهم منه اي شيء. ما حد يقول لكم جابوا كتاب بس دوخنا. بس دوخنا. جيب كتاب، درس كتاب للطلاب، اول انت المعلم تفهمه، هذا الطلاب يفهمون. اذا تجيب اشياء الصف انت المعلم تدوخ به، خطيه الطلاب شو راح يسوون معك؟ راح يلومونك وانت تعرف اكثر من ذلك. Please avoid selecting hard books for the classes. Please. It is not a privilege for you. Now, there are some elements you have to consider in your teaching. What is psychological validity? What's mean by psychological validity? It means identify your goals. Each class should have some goals in it. And should be realistic goals. Some teachers might say, I remember a friend of mine, he said there was a class in Iran, I'm speaking of Iran, that they guarantee within 6 months from 0 to TOEFL, 6 months. I gave him this an example in Persian, then I discussed it in Arabic. I told him, we all get sick. We all get sick. And I went to the doctor, because for example, this is 12 tablets. You have to use every 8 hours 1 tablet. I said, what a crazy doctor he is. I will use all 12 together to get healed very quickly. The doctor is crazy. Every 8 hours, 5 days I have to use these tablets to get cured. The doctor is crazy. So I'm going to use all 12 together. These are slogans. كلمة مرضين راح الطبيب كان 12 حباية كل 8 ساعات حباية واحدة. نقول الطبيب هذا مجنون. 4 أيام كنا أكل حبوب أنا راح أكل 12 حباية كل فد مرة حتى فد مرة أطيبها. So please, this is like this. If you have a class, put huge pressure on your students, like using 12 tablets together, and you will go to the hospital definitely. And you will, instead of cured, you might die actually, because you might get poisoned. The doctor is right, when he said every 8 hours. So please, avoid these types of propaganda. 6 months, TOEFL. 6 months, IELTS, 9 IELTS. Even the British people, they can get 9 out of 9 IELTS, but they guarantee. This is just using all the medicine in one session. Just please avoid it. Everything is step by step. These types of just slogan. ماكو واحد ياكل دكتور طيب نعطيه 12 حبايه يقول له انا استعمل كل 12 حبايه في المره حتى في المره اطيبها. بل تطيب بس يخدمك بوادي السلام يعني في المره تريح حوله في المره. احنا العلم هالشكل. العلم ما حل مرحله. ماكو واحد تلقى بالعالم في المره صار Hi Dr. Hassan, how are you? It is impossible to find a person just with one night he can become all it is impossible. So please, you as a teacher, identify your aims and move step by step. Avoid imposing to your kids, your students, too much load. This will have bad consequences. Like using the whole medicine in one session. And the consequence is that will go to hospital or you will say goodbye to life. So these types of things should be very careful. Sorry, I have to move faster. I know how Doctor is waiting. Sorry, Doctor. But this is somewhat ahead. I promise you just to round it up for today's session. Now, recently, not very much. I will wait here. If you have any questions, ask. Then we'll go to new session. Thank you very much. If you have any question, you are highly welcome. إذا عندكم أسئلة تفضل. تفضل أهلا وسهلا. تفضل.
Hello, we're here. Welcome to Iraq.
I continue properly. Would you please repeat?
I said welcome to Iraq.
Thank you very much. It is a pleasure for me.
Thank you. You said when you to make a student, you should make a human at first.
Exactly. In that theory.
What is
in that theory. Thank you very much for
What is human?
Thank you very much. In that theory of interaction, Arabic, they are theories. I'm not claiming what they said was 100% accurate. The example they put in their books is that. I give an example. For example, أستاذ محمد أكبر طبيب العالم، يعني يفك لك القلب كأنما قاعد يفتح كل شيء بسيط. هاي شلون أفتح هاي من قنة الماء؟ القلب مالك كأنما قاعد يتمخض شلون يسوي 25 يعني. شيء صعب والله يعني. شلون يسوي بس ميت واحد يفكر بالفلوس بجيبه، يذهب العالم وعصبي وهذا يقولون غلط. إذا عندنا طبيب, if we have a normal person, maybe very normal, but he can behave in a proper manner, respect the patient, respect his wife, respect parents, friends, all together, this is much better than a doctor who is very aggressive and just want to act, who is very impolite or rude, whatever you put it. They believe in this aspect. In our class, in English classes, we should train our children, or our students, I mean, don't mean children, I mean little kids, no, in a way that they know how to behave, how to respect others, then to be a good doctor. This is a theory. I thank you for your question. شكرا. عافية عافية مش صح. صدقني عافية يعني شنو؟ عافية عافية مليون دينار تستحق. مليون دولار صح. عافية. Another question?
Yes.
And this gentleman.
Yes. Okay, first of all, thank you so much for this your informative session. I just want to ask you about the roles of the native language and the target language.
What do you mean
Okay.
exactly?
You know, we have to use either the first language.
أهلا وسهلا يا الله أهلا وسهلا. لحظة أهلا وسهلا. عرب بني سيد بقى صحيح؟ سيد أهلا وسهلا.
So the language instructions, the instructions that given by the teachers, okay? Teachers are required to use either their first language or the target language in order to teach.
Fine.
Okay.
Now, yes.
We need to know what are the effects of using the first language, because our students need help to clarify meaning for them with using the first language.
Thank you very much. Thank you for answering your productive questions. I'm going to answer your questions based on the research done by my students. There are 4 or 5 students, 2 of them from Iraq, did a research on code switching. And so that they compare a class.
That's what you have practiced now, okay?
Yes,
code switching, yeah.
Code switching. Yes.
You have spoken in Arabic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. All Arabic, my students, there might be some research might contradict these researches. Well, we can say researches or research. Both can be plural, and research can be both plural and or singular. Based on code switching, which around, I can say 4 or 5 studies done under my supervision, the productivity of class with mixed language was more than class with only one language. All these 5, as far as I can remember 5, but more or less I can't remember exactly, but I think they were around 5. Almost all of them prove that if a teacher uses code switching, the class will not be monotonous. Just monotony. تنقسم monotony. يعني ما يشبه بالعربية.
رتابة.
ملل أو رتابة. Boring. And the productivity was much higher. For example, I remember a classmate of yours, her name is Jamila, she was your classmate, as far as I can remember. She did a research, combined 2 classes. One class she used Arabic and English for teaching grammar. In one class she used only English. She found that in the final exam, those classes which the teacher used Arabic and English was more productive than the class that she just used only English language. Based on these research, I can say using maybe, I'm not claiming to teach only in Arabic and ignoring, no, just maybe the percentage is something not valid. Imagine, if I want to say something like this, maybe, it's not valid, it's just my impression. 80% English, 20% Arabic. Maybe it's more. This is not, we should be studied out. I cannot say, for example, this is accurate. we should do researches to see found that is valid or not. But what I found from my students, postgraduate studies, code switching is productive. Code switching is productive.
So can we call it code switching or translanguaging? Because there is something different between code switching and translanguaging. Okay, you know, translanguaging is something strategic, something internal, okay, more than the code switching or pedagogical code switching.
It is very hard to answer your question because what I found is based on code switching. If I want to answer your question scientifically, we should do researches. Based on research, we should answer you. It's a good idea. I have a student waiting for a topic. I will suggest a topic to him. To her.
Oh, this is my PhD topic.
So you want to no. Well, as I know you are a qualified person, Ustad Ahmed. And congratulations for your daughter. الله رازقها بنية والله حلوة بنتها ما شاء الله الله يحفظها إن شاء الله ما تجي خطابة بعد كده تبي القمار تجي خطابة إن شاء الله إن شاء الله. أوكي. شو اسم بنتك أستاذ حيدر؟ أستاذ أحمد؟ ليان الله يحفظها إن شاء الله.
Doctor, I think the monolingual method is something related to the 80s or 90s. It's not the trend anymore because there is a plethora of research indicating that using the native language is something productive.
Well, yes, but one thing we should not forget, depends on the level of the learners as well.
Exactly.
Depends on the level. It might be in very high level, in PhD level or MA level. It is highly recommended. I myself believe it's good to teach only in the target language. But with the, well, for example, beginners or even intermediate, it's very productive to use the native language. Based on those studies done by my students. But as I read many studies proved that classes with fixed language, with code switching is not productive. Anyway, Dr. Amelian is waiting and I know her. Let me introduce my colleague. Oh, she will come. I will introduce her actually, yeah. Or I will introduce her. I will do it. Okay.